What is the worst part of being an LSE student? Are there a lot of rich students there? Does everybody just want to go into banking, lol? Is the social life as bad as people say? I feel like people exaggerate. Hi guys, my name is Imogen. I am a first year student at the London School of Economics doing geography, and as we speak, I am exactly halfway through my first year, which is honestly crazy. But today I thought I would answer your questions all about applying to LSE, going to LSE, and just the general university. Yesterday I asked you guys over on my Instagram if you had any questions, and you did not disappoint. You have sent me in so many. I have them on my laptop over here. So today I'm going to be running through and answering them. If you ever want to get involved with videos like this again, then do be sure to follow me over my Instagram. I'm going to put it on the screen now, and it is always in the description box down below. Question number 1 is, why do they reject applicants just based on their personal statement? Now, as I've said in a previous video, 22,000 people, there or thereabouts, apply to LSE every single year. If only 2,000 of them don't meet their entry requirements, then that's still 20,000 people that they've got to differentiate between. LSE only have 1,700 undergraduate places a year, so they just can't give everyone a space. Now, LSE don't do interviews, which honestly was one of the reasons that I chose to apply there. However, they have still got to differentiate between candidates, and that is why they focus so heavily on the personal statement. The next question is, what is the worst part of being an LSE student? And this is so easy to answer. I think all of my friends would attest to this, but it's just the workload. I have so much reading to do every week, and it can be really overwhelming at times. Just this week, for example, for my sustainable development module, I have a reading that is over 130 pages long. And unfortunately, it's not an article, so I can't do the whole introduction, abstract, and conclusion. I have to read that chapter all the way through. Now, if I multiply that by the amount of readings that I have per module, which is normally 2 or 3 a week, and then you times it by the amount of modules that I have, which is 3 geography modules, you then end up looking at like near 400 pages a week to read. And it's just a lot to do, especially when I personally have, I've got my timetable up here. I have 14 contact hours a week. The next question is, do you have to share a room with others, and how does it work? And the answer is no, you do not have to share a room with others. LSE offers single rooms, double rooms, or triple rooms, and I personally have a triple room, which is really unusual, but it does help to keep the costs down, especially when you're living in a city like London. I'm currently working on a video all about accommodation, especially at LSE, so if that is something that you'd be interested in, be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on it. And the second part of your question is, how does accommodation work? So you have to firm your offer before you can then start applying to accommodation. That's true of most different universities, I think. And then you apply through something called HallPad, which is the accommodation services system that we have at LSE. And you can just pick which room that you want to go for. They are first come, first served, so if you get your offer first, I guess you are advantaged in this way. Linked to that, the next question is, how are people matched to be roommates? So you can either be matched up randomly, which is what I had, and thankfully I ended up with Hannah and Leah, who I get on super well with. However, there are also a couple of boys on my corridor who share a double room, and they actually knew each other from school, and then they asked to be put together at LSE. Somebody has asked, does everybody just want to go into banking, lol? It often feels like it. This is very much the assumption that's made about LSE. I personally am thinking maybe I'll go into teaching, maybe I'll go into journalism. I really don't know at the moment. And I have a lot of friends who don't want to go into banking, but then I also have a lot of friends who do want to go into the finance and banking industries. But there is a large percentage of people at LSE who do want to go into banking and finance. There is certainly some truth in that assumption. This does kind of make sense though, because the amount of students who do the economics course is far greater than any other course at LSE. For example, on the EC 100 course, which is the introduction to economics course, so the most basic one you can take, and I know people can take it from other modules, but just as an example of the amount of people who are interested in that basic economics course, there are over 1,000 different people on those lectures. However, on my GY 100, so that's Introduction to Geography course, there are only, I think, 100 undergraduates on there. So there just are a lot more people who are either interested in economics or do those courses anyway. The next question is it really that international? And the short answer is yes, it is. The statistics don't lie. It is over 70% international, and you do see that through the university. For example, on my corridor, I actually have to move out every holiday, which you'd think would make it quite unappealing for international students, but I think the balance is maybe 50-50 between international students and home students. Linked to that, this same person has also asked, are there a lot of rich students there? Yes. So the international students have to pay over £20,000 a year for their education at LSE, which does mean that they're coming from quite affluent backgrounds. Yes, there are bursaries and there are different schemes to try and include different people and like widen participation and all those sorts of things, but there are quite a large amount of rich students there because they've been able to afford the fees to come to LSE. Additionally, living in London can be quite expensive. It's quite an expensive city. There are certainly ways to keep costs low, and I've talked about this in my How Much Did I Spend in First Term video. The accommodations though range from like £4,000 a year, or 3,000, I think I pay about 3,000 a year, all the way up to like £11,000 a year. So obviously there is quite a wide diversity of like how much people are willing to spend and like how much people are paying for their accommodation and therefore spending on living in London. Next question, did everyone get A's or A stars? I mean, minus a few B's, yes, they would have done. Maybe not so much at GCSEs because often people haven't performed as well at GCSEs but have really done well at A-levels and that's how they've got in. However, if you haven't met the A-level requirements, which I think the lowest is AAB, then you're not going to get a place. It really is as simple as that because LSE is so oversubscribed anyway that they can afford to be really picky with who they have. There are students with like 4 A stars, 5 A stars, I don't even know. And then there's also people like me who have come away with 3 A's, which is still really, really good, don't get me wrong. But there is a bit of a range within that. But most people are quite high achieving there. The next question is something that comes up in every single LSE video, and that is the social life as bad as people say? I feel like people exaggerate. I do think they exaggerate slightly. I mean, obviously I've not really experienced a proper like LSE social life as such because we've had the pandemic ever since I started university. However, what I would say is from my personal experience, everyone was so social on my corridor. Yes, they worked really hard during the day, but then in the evenings we'd all be together. We'd spend like hours chatting together and things like that. We couldn't really go out because of the whole COVID thing, but I imagine we'll be going out and things next year, or we would have done if we had the opportunity. London has so many cool cafes though, and I think that is kind of part of the social life, is the fact that it's not just clubbing. There's so many different things going on in London, with any big city really, that you can go and have a social life but in a very different way. So for example, I used to love going and spending time with my friends, doing our work but in a coffee shop, like going and seeing somewhere new in London, which we could do pre-lockdown lockdown 2 and 3. I don't even know what lockdown we're on anymore. The next question just says about LSE General Course, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you now, I don't know much about the LSE General Course. I know that General Course students come, I think, just from America, and they come and study at LSE for a year and they can take modules in like lots of different departments. I do have one general course student, I think, on one of my courses. So if people are interested in this, do let me know in the comments down below and I'll try and get in contact with them and see if maybe we can do a video together, or at least I can ask some advice and then I can give you guys that. Next question is, do you find all London uni students mixed, or do you all feel quite separate? I've heard a few different rumours about this, but personally I haven't actually experienced this. If you go to an intercollegiate halls, I guess, you would be more social because you obviously have people from different unis either within your flat, depending on which halls you're at, or at least in the building that you're in. However, the building that I'm in is purely LSE students, and with Corona I haven't really been out and kind of mixed with a lot of other London uni students, so I don't really feel like right now I can answer your question. However, I'm gonna hold it, and when I do my next LSE Q&A video, hopefully in like, I don't know, 6 months to a year's time, when things are looking a little bit more normal, I would definitely answer that question. It is editing Imogen here from the next day. Basically, when I was editing this video together, I realised I'd filmed for ages and ages because you guys had so many really good questions and I didn't really want to lose any of them. So I've actually decided to split this video into 2 parts. So you have just watched part 1 and hopefully tomorrow part 2 is going to be out. But obviously I've spoken a lot about my uni work in this video. I am super busy at the moment, so it might not be tomorrow. It really depends. Is it hard to keep up with class? How much did you pay for it? Would you say it's a bit right-leaning? Do you regret going to LSE? To make sure that you don't miss out on the next part of this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel down below and I will see you very soon with part 2.